My name is Lena Marlowe, and I'm 28. 5 years ago, victory looked like a wall of green tests at 2 a.m. These days, it's quieter. Morning light sliding across my kitchen tile, the steady hum of a pool pump through double-glazed doors, the hush of a four-bedroom house I bought by stacking overtime like bricks and living beneath my means until the math finally tilted in my favor. As my mother likes to remind me, it's too much house for one person. I didn't buy it to impress anyone. I bought it because after my startup went public and the dream numbers became real numbers, I promised myself a place no one could yank out from under me. Northern California sun, a stubborn garden, hedges that are not up for creative trimming, my sanctuary. Sanctuaries, it turns out, make very good wedding venues. My younger sister, Sabrina, is 25, charming, impulsive, and the unspoken favorite. 8 months after meeting Tyler Grant, she floated into an engagement dinner like a champagne bubble. The cork had barely popped when my mother angled toward me with that casserole dish smile that always means I'm about to be volunteered. "Lena has that backyard, Mom," Diane announced. My father, Gerald, added, "Family helps family." I nearly inhaled my wine. "Mom, Dad, my place isn't a venue." Sabrina clasped her hands. "But it's perfect. Exactly what I pictured." Tyler's arm tightened around her. "We can't afford those venue rates. This would mean the world." 3 weeks of pressure followed. Mom's daily calls, Sabrina's texts full of dresses and flower reels, aunts and uncles just checking in, all glazed with the same message. "You have so much. Don't be selfish." By the time Dad said, "You have space, Lena," I felt old habits tugging like undertow. The obedient child who earns approval, the older sister who patches holes no one else sees. I agreed, with conditions. "Okay," I told Sabrina, laptop on speaker while I typed. "Backyard only. You handle setup and cleanup. Any damage, you pay immediately. Interior off limits except 2 bathrooms. Reception ends at 10 p.m. Max 100 guests. You provide liability insurance. We sign a contract. No edits." "Anything," she said instantly. "You're the best." My boyfriend, Caleb Morton, was slicing lemons in my kitchen when I hung up. He lifted the knife like a toast. "Boundaries. Love to see it. Watch me get crucified for them." Caleb isn't flashy. He's a paramedic with steady hands and steadier eyes, the kind of man who keeps you upright when rooms tilt. He kissed the back of my head. "When it gets messy, I'm here." It got messy fast. Sabrina began visualizing. She drifted through my yard, narrating on her phone like a producer. "If we trimmed these hedges differently, the photos would feel softer." "The hedges," I said, "are a boundary with leaves." She pouted. "What about repainting the gazebo? It's a tiny refresh. And the pool deck, lighter concrete would bounce the light." "No, and no," I said. "This is a wedding, not a renovation show." An hour later, Mom called, voice aching. "Lena, you said you'd help. Why make it difficult?" "Because it's my house," I didn't say. Because in our family, every no is treated like betrayal. Not all of it was grim. There were bright slices. Caleb and I eating takeout on moving blankets, joking about whether I needed a whistle on wedding day. But shadows crept in at the edges. Caleb's ex, Madison Lowe, still orbited our friend group like space junk. On a group hike, she tilted her head and said too sweetly, "Letting your sister use your place? That's so generous. I could never be that controlling with my family." Then she glanced at Caleb, like she'd lit a small fire and wanted to see if he'd stomp it out. He did. "Drop it, Madison. Lena's being kind, with boundaries." Still, the word controlling clung like static. Funny what people will call you when the answer is no. 2 months before the wedding, I came home from a 3-day work trip, badge still around my neck. Voices carried from the backyard, unfamiliar bass, and a bright planner's soprano. Through the glass, I saw a wedding planner and a contractor with clipboards, pointing at my pool. Keys bit my palm. "What's going on?" Sabrina turned, smile late. "Hey, we're just getting a few estimates." "For what?" "Minor improvements," Tyler said. "The contractor says a temporary dance floor over the pool would be—" "Absolutely not," I said. "Everyone out, now." They filed out, shoes whispering across the pavers. Sabrina lingered. "You're being unreasonable." "I'm being the owner," I said. "No more people here without my permission." That night, Mom called weeping. "How could you embarrass them? Don't you understand stress?" "I understand contracts and property." Meanwhile, the guest list metastasized. I'd approved 100. A seating plan arrived for 150. When I confronted Sabrina, she sighed. We can't uninvite family. Some won't show. That's not how caps work. I looped in my lawyer, Victor Chen. He drafted a clean, specific agreement. No reasonable hours, no approximately. Just numbers, times, consequences. I emailed it with the subject, event terms, must sign unaltered. The return signature page, edited. Reception ends at a reasonable hour. Approximately 100 guests. I called Sabrina. Nice try. Send the original, unaltered, or find another venue. You're a dictator, she snapped. I'm a homeowner protecting my home. My hand shook. My voice didn't. Caleb's palm settled on my shoulder. I believe you, it said without words. Sunday, I arrived early to help Mom with dinner. Onions hissed in butter. From the living room, Sabrina's voice drifted. After the honeymoon, we'll already be settled in. Perfect timing. Tyler, you sure Lena won't freak out? Our parents will handle her, Sabrina said. It's just temporary. 6 months, maybe a year. The master bedroom is incredible. I can't wait to redecorate it. Ice slid through my veins. I stepped into the doorway. What are you talking about? They froze. Tyler tried a grin. We were joking about moving in. Sabrina smiled like a blade. Don't be dramatic. Dad walked in with a grocery bag. What's this? Your younger daughter and her fiancé are planning to move into my house after their wedding, I said. Mom lit up. Oh, what a wonderful idea. You have 4 bedrooms, Lena, and you're just one. No. I looked at each of them. Under no circumstance. The argument detonated. I was selfish, ungrateful, cold. I said what I don't take back. If you're planning to move in, reconsider the venue. Silence. Try me hung in the room. 2 weeks of Cold War followed. I installed security cameras and changed locks. My neighbor, Paula Green, waved from her mailbox. So excited about the basement conversion, she chirped. Sabrina asked if we knew contractors. I called Sabrina. Stop, there is no conversion. A pause, then, I'm pregnant. The room tilted. Caleb laced his fingers with mine. I inhaled slowly. Congratulations, I said evenly. You're still not moving in. How can you be so heartless, she whispered. Your niece or nephew needs parents who plan, I said. I'm not your plan. That night, Victor sent a formal letter. No tenancy, no claim to residency, trespass if you attempt to stay past the reception. I forwarded it with a steadier hand than I felt. My phone filled with fury. Relatives, Mom causing a scene at my workplace until security escorted her out. Caleb logged everything. Documentation, he said, is oxygen in a fire. At 11 p.m., the unaltered contract finally arrived, signed with liability coverage attached. Then Tyler blasted a message to the extended family. Despite Lena's threats, we've agreed to her unreasonable demands. Screenshots pinged my phone like hail. I replied once to all, I'm providing my home, saving you roughly $15,000 in venue costs, assuming liability for 100 guests, and asking for basic respect. If that makes me the villain, so be it. Caleb set his phone down and touched his forehead to mine. You did the right thing. Outside, the pool pump hummed on. The hedges held their line in the dark. I remembered why I bought this place, not to host other people's dreams, but to protect my own. 3 weeks before the wedding, my house stopped feeling like mine. It became a set, a stage, a war zone with flower samples and entitlement for artillery. Sabrina's car appeared in my driveway so often my motion camera started mistaking her for a resident. One morning I looked up from my laptop to see her in the yard with a clipboard and 2 men I didn't recognize, again. When I went outside, she flashed me her sugar-sweet event smile. Don't panic, Lena. Just testing lighting angles for the videographer. By trampling my flower beds? Her laugh had that high, practiced note I'd started to hate. It's all temporary. You'll hardly notice. Get off my property, I said. And for once, she listened, though not before sending me a look that said, you'll regret this. That night, Caleb rubbed my shoulders as I sat rigid at my desk, rereading the contract. You could still cancel, he murmured. Can't, I said. Half the family would burn me in effigy. He paused. And the other half? The half with jobs and mortgages would clap. He smiled faintly, kissed the back of my neck, and went to make coffee. I stared at the flickering cursor of my inbox, where unread messages from Mom piled up like guilt grenades. The family dinner. Sunday dinner at my parents' house was supposed to be neutral territory. Instead, it became an ambush disguised as pot roast. Dad was carving meat, Mom refilling wine when Sabrina announced, without looking at me, "Tyler and I have decided the basement suite will be perfect for us while we save up." I set my fork down slowly. "Excuse me?" Mom sighed, as if she were already tired of my drama. "Sweetheart, they're newlyweds. They'll need somewhere to start. You've got space. It's temporary." I stared at them. "You're talking about my house as if I'm not sitting here." Sabrina finally met my eyes, serene as a saint. "You won't even notice we're there." "You mean the way I didn't notice the wedding planner you invited without asking?" Mom's lips pinched. "You're making everything about control again?" "I'm making it about boundaries." Dad's voice cracked through the table like a gavel. "Enough. We're done discussing this." Except we weren't. Not really. Because 2 nights later, Paula Green, my neighbor, stopped me at the mailbox. "Lena, I heard you're converting the basement. Sabrina said you're adding a kitchenette down there. Smart move. You'll get great resale value." My stomach dropped. I smiled thinly. "Thanks, Paula. No conversion. No kitchenette." Her smile faltered. "Oh, she seemed so sure." Of course she did. I went inside, poured myself a drink, and called Sabrina. "You're spreading lies about renovations?" "I was just brainstorming," she said lightly. "Don't be so tense. Stress isn't good for the baby." The baby. That word hit like a wrecking ball. "What baby?" Silence, then a small, calculated tremor. "I was going to tell you sooner. I'm pregnant." My first thought wasn't joy, it was suspicion. The timing was too perfect. "Congratulations," I said carefully. "You're still not moving in." Her voice cracked. "You're unbelievable. You'd throw out your pregnant sister?" "No," I said softly, "but I'll protect myself from being manipulated by one." I hung up. Legal lines. By morning, Victor Chen had the paperwork drafted. Sabrina and Tyler are not tenants. No claim of residency before or after the wedding. Any attempt to stay will be treated as trespassing. I signed, notarized, and sent copies to both families. What followed was nuclear. Mom showed up at my office lobby crying so loudly that Caleb had to come downstairs and escort her out. Dad emailed me 3 paragraphs about family duty. Uncles and aunts called to say they were disappointed in who I've become. It was noise, all of it. But noise still rattles walls if you let it. I tried to focus on work, on normalcy. Caleb would bring me lunch between ambulance shifts, teasing, "Paramedics don't even deal with this much drama." I'd smile, but my stomach would twist. Because I could feel it coming, a final blow before the wedding. The group text. At 11 p.m., Sabrina finally sent the unaltered contract, the liability insurance attached. Then, not 20 minutes later, a new group text exploded across the extended family thread. Sabrina. "Despite Lena's threats, Tyler and I have agreed to her unreasonable demands. We're heartbroken that money means more to her than family, but we'll sign whatever she wants so Grandma can see us get married." Replies flooded in. "Aunt Melanie, shame on you, Lena." Uncle Tom. "She's saving them thousands and you're calling her greedy?" Mom, I can't believe you'd make your sister cry like this. I took a screenshot, then typed one message. Lena, I'm providing my home for free. That's roughly $15,000 saved, plus insurance and liability coverage. All I've asked for is respect and clear boundaries. If that makes me the villain, fine. I can live with that. The thread went silent for 5 whole minutes, an eternity in family chat time. Caleb leaned against the counter, watching me hit send. "You're shaking," he said. "I'm done shaking," I answered. "I'm documenting." He smiled, proud and tired. "That's my girl." Outside, the pool lights shimmered on calm water, and the hedges stood untouched in the dark, like guards that finally understood their job. I didn't know it yet, but those same hedges would soon witness something far worse than family drama. The morning of the wedding arrived like a storm that had been building for months. The air was heavy, metallic, one of those California mornings where the sky feels too bright, like it's mocking you for caring. Vendors started arriving at 7 o'clock a.m., clanging, shouting, rolling carts across my driveway. My carefully written plan, one I'd emailed, printed, and taped to the garage door, might as well have been confetti. I was ready, though. Caleb stayed over, armed with coffee and quiet authority, and Victor Chen had reviewed every clause of my event agreement twice. At 9:15 a.m., a woman in a headset marched up to my front door, clipboard in hand. "I'm the wedding coordinator. I need to set up the bridal suite in the master bedroom." "No," I said simply. She blinked. "Excuse me?" "The bridal suite is in the hotel room your client booked," I said, pointing toward the printed schedule taped to the door. "My master bedroom is not part of the venue." Her jaw tightened. Sabrina said, I cut her off. Sabrina says a lot of things. Read the contract. She spun away, calling someone on her headset. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Mom. Mom, just let them use one room, Lena, please. It's your sister's wedding day. Me, they have a hotel room for that. I set my phone face down. Caleb exhaled a quiet laugh. That's strike one. The guest list meltdown. By noon, the rental trucks rolled in with chairs, linens, and archways. I stepped outside to help the crew set up, only to count 150 chairs being unloaded. Take 50 back, I said firmly. The foreman frowned. Ma'am, the order is for 150, signed by a Tyler Grant. I held up a printed copy of my contract. The limit is 100. You can set up 100, or you can pack it all back into the truck. The man groaned but obeyed. By the time the last chair came off, Sabrina was already walking down the path in a white silk robe, phone in hand, filming a behind-the-scenes story. What's the problem now? She demanded. The problem, I said, is that you and Tyler apparently can't count. Her eyes flashed. You're unbelievable, Lena. It's our day. Can't you stop being controlling for 1 minute? There it was again, that word. Controlling. I almost laughed. You mean responsible? No, not today. She spun away, dialing Mom before she even reached the patio. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Mom, she's crying. Why are you doing this to her? Me. I'm not doing anything. I'm enforcing the agreement she signed. Caleb brushed my arm. Don't answer again, he said softly. They're trying to get footage for sympathy later. He wasn't wrong. Security arrives. At 3 o'clock, 2 off-duty police officers pulled into my driveway, the private security I'd hired for the day. They were calm, polite, and worth every penny. Within an hour, they'd turned away 3 unlisted vendors, 1 overeager photographer, and, most satisfying of all, a DJ truck trying to unload massive speakers. Who authorized this? I asked the man in the baseball cap. Tyler, he said. He said you changed your mind about the live band. Not even close. I gestured to the officers. They escorted him off the property while he muttered something about uptight homeowners. By 4 o'clock, the yard looked perfect. Too perfect, like a movie set that didn't belong to me. White chairs, fresh roses, a string quartet warming up under the gazebo. Guests began arriving in pastel waves. I stayed by the kitchen window, watching through glass. A ghost in my own house. The officers checked names at the gate. 12 people turned away. Each one called Sabrina, or my mother, who, in turn, called me. I silenced every buzz. At 5, the ceremony began. The ceremony. I'll admit it. It was beautiful. The light was golden. The sky watercolor blue. Tyler looked proud. Sabrina, radiant. For an hour, everything was calm. People smiled, laughed, toasted. I stood at the edge of the yard beside Caleb, sipping water and trying to remember that generosity doesn't mean surrender. Then, just after sunset, Evelyn Grant, Tyler's grandmother, approached me. She was small, sharp-eyed, with that kind of fragile grace that commands respect. You must be Lena, she said kindly. This is such a lovely home. Thank you for sharing it. You're welcome, Mrs. Grant. She leaned closer, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. And so generous of you to let them live here after the honeymoon. Sabrina said you offered the guest house. I froze. I'm sorry, what did she say? Oh, she's been telling everyone how you insisted on it. Such a sweet big sister gesture. My throat tightened. Excuse me one moment, I said, forcing a smile. I found Caleb near the drink station. We have a problem, I murmured. Within 15 minutes, he and a few friends I trusted were mingling through the crowd, casually asking about the newlyweds' plans. The stories varied. Some said Sabrina and Tyler would stay in the guest suite. Others said the basement apartment. One cousin claimed they were taking over the master bedroom while I moved into a smaller one. Each lie was a fresh betrayal, and each came straight from Sabrina's mouth. The reception. By 9 o'clock p.m., the music had drifted from soft jazz to chaos. Someone, probably Tyler, had set up extra speakers, despite my earlier warning. When I saw the glowing soundboard by the gazebo, I walked straight to it and unplugged it. Tyler turned, face red. Hey, that's for the speeches. Use the guitarist's mic, I said. That's what you paid for. You're making a scene at my wedding. No, I said. I'm enforcing a contract at my house. My father appeared beside him, voice low and hard. Lena, stop this. You're humiliating us. I met his eyes. No, Dad, I'm humiliating no one. I'm preventing a lawsuit. The DJ equipment was packed up. The air grew thick. Guests whispered. I caught bits of conversation. She's so uptight. She's right, though. It's her place. At 9:30, I gave my 30-minute warning. Reception ends at 10. Sabrina rolled her eyes. The party's just getting started. It's ending at 10. Don't be that girl, Tyler sneered. I'm being the homeowner. When 9:55 hit, I walked to the fuse box and cut the power to the backyard lighting and speakers. Instantly, the night fell quiet, just the hum of crickets and the faint echo of stunned gasps. Within minutes, people started gathering their things. The officers stood by the gate, polite but firm. By 10:20, the yard was empty except for the cleanup crew. Sabrina approached, eyes shining, not with tears, but with fury. You ruined my wedding, she hissed. I hosted it for free, I said evenly. You're welcome. Tyler stepped forward, voice tight. We'll remember this. So will I said. They walked away, and for the first time that night, I exhaled. The aftermath. By midnight, everything was packed up. Damages were minor. Some trampled flower beds, a cracked tile near the pool. Caleb stayed with me, sweeping and bagging trash while the last vendors left. When I finally sat on the porch steps, I could see my reflection in the dark window. Tired, hollow-eyed, but steady. I thought that was the end. But the next morning, my phone exploded. 47 unread messages, family group chat, photos from the wedding, commentary on my behavior. Half the messages called me selfish. The other half called me brave. And then, at the bottom, one from my cousin Lauren Keats that froze me. Lauren, FYI, overheard Sabrina and Tyler at the hotel bar last night. They told people they're moving into your place after their honeymoon. Thought you should know. My stomach turned to ice. It wasn't over, not even close. 2 months passed, long enough for the roses I'd replanted after the wedding to bloom again, and for my pulse to stop jumping every time my phone buzzed. For a while it seemed quiet, too quiet. Then, one Sunday afternoon, my security app pinged. Motion detected, front driveway. The feed showed a U-Haul truck rolling in, followed by Sabrina's SUV and a silver sedan I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped. Caleb was in the kitchen, fixing the hinge on a cabinet door. What is it? I turned the phone toward him. They're here, he stared. You're kidding. I wish I were. I walked to the window. Sabrina climbed out of the U-Haul wearing sunglasses, belly barely rounded now, just enough to weaponize. Tyler hopped out next, clipboard in hand. Behind them came my parents, Gerald and Diane, trailing tight smiles and folded arms. Of course, I muttered. They brought backup. Caleb followed me to the door. Want me here? Definitely. I stepped outside before they could ring the bell. Lena, Mom called, too brightly. We thought we'd surprise you. You succeeded. Sabrina gestured at the truck. We're ready to move our things in. We'll just take the basement suite for now. You said it was temporary. I said never. Tyler frowned. Don't start this again. From inside, Caleb's voice carried. Victor's on his way. Sabrina's sunglasses tilted down. You called your lawyer? He's been on retainer since June, I said evenly. Because of you. The silence that followed was cinematic. Birdsong. Wind. Then my father's voice. This is insane. We're family. Talk like adults. I am talking like an adult. You're the ones arriving with a moving truck uninvited. Sabrina's lower lip trembled. Lena, I'm pregnant. Do you really want to put your niece or nephew out on the street? I felt Caleb step closer behind me, a solid wall of calm. You're not on the street, I said. You're in a driveway that doesn't belong to you. My mother gasped. Lena! You can stay for 15 minutes, I continued, while my attorney explains the trespass notice you were sent. Twice. The showdown. 10 minutes later, Victor Chen pulled up in a dark sedan. He walked toward us, tie loosened, carrying a folder of documents like they were armor. Afternoon, he greeted politely. Mr. and Mrs. Marlowe, Miss Marlowe, Mr. Grant. He flipped open the file. Per the letter dated August 22nd, you were informed that any attempt to occupy or store belongings on this property constitutes trespassing. Tyler snorted. You can't trespass on family property. Victor adjusted his glasses. Actually, you can when it's not your family property. Sabrina's voice cracked. This is absurd. You can't just throw us out. I'm not throwing you out, I said. You never moved in. Then, like vultures on cue, my parents advanced. Dad's tone dropped to that old authoritarian baritone. Lena, enough. Let's talk inside, privately. I folded my arms. No, we'll talk right here. Mom's voice trembled. She's pregnant. She needs stability. She needs accountability, I replied, and I need peace. The standoff lasted 2 hours. 2 hours of circular arguments, guilt trips, half-truths. At one point, Tyler tried to film the exchange for legal documentation. Caleb stepped in front of the camera, calm but firm. "You're not recording anyone here." Neighbors peeked from porches. Paula Green stood across the street, watering her plants, pretending not to watch. When Victor finally nodded to me, I took out my phone and dialed. "Hi, this is Lena Marlowe. I need officers dispatched to enforce a trespass notice at my address." That broke them. Mom burst into tears. Dad cursed under his breath. Tyler threw up his hands, muttering about lawsuits he'd never file. By the time the police arrived, the driveway looked like a tableau of denial. Parents crying, sister clutching her stomach, truck idling with the engine still running. The officers were professional. They reviewed Victor's documents, spoke quietly to Sabrina and Tyler, and gave them a simple choice: leave peacefully or face charges. They left. The truck backed out, my parents following in silence. As the taillights disappeared, my body finally let go. My knees went weak. Caleb caught me before I fell. "Hey, it's over." I shook my head. "No," I whispered. "They're not done. They never are." The campaign. I was right. Over the next 3 weeks, the harassment came in waves. Mom called daily, sobbing. "You've destroyed this family." Dad emailed manifestos about filial duty and forgiveness. Aunts and uncles called, using words like selfish and cold. And then there was Madison Lowe, Caleb's ex, posting vague Facebook statuses about people who think boundaries make them saints. It didn't take long for the whispers to spread. On community boards, pregnant couple left homeless by heartless sister. In local gossip threads, Lena Marlowe, Silicon Valley success story, refuses to help family. Caleb found me pacing one night, scrolling through the comments. "Stop reading them," he said. "I can't, they're lying." He took my phone gently, set it face down. "Then tell the truth." "I can't air family business online." "Why not? They already did." I stared at him, torn between exhaustion and rage. "If I do, there's no going back." Caleb's voice softened. "They already burned the bridge. You just haven't stopped breathing the smoke." The decision. I stayed up all night compiling everything. Every text, every altered contract, every email, every photo of damage, every witness statement, every timestamp security clip. At sunrise, I sent Victor an email titled, "Documentation Package, Truth Release." He replied 5 words, "If you're sure, I'll review." I stared at the reply for a long time, then I typed back, "I'm sure," because they'd taken my peace, my reputation, my home's sense of safety. The only thing left to take back was my story. When I finally hit post, my hands were trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of finally being done hiding. It took less than 10 minutes for the post to explode. I'd titled it, "When Family Turns into Trespassers, a Timeline." No rage, no insults, just dates, screenshots, contracts, messages, and photos. A year's worth of proof. At the very end, I added one clip from the wedding security footage. Sabrina, laughing with her bridesmaids near the pool, saying in her own voice, "I'm not even pregnant yet, but once we're living there, it'll be easy to get pregnant fast. No one kicks out a woman with a baby." The audio was clear. The laughter after, even clearer. Within hours, the comments section turned. People who'd called me heartless were now apologizing. Others, distant cousins, old classmates, even neighbors, started sharing their own stories about Sabrina and Tyler, unpaid loans, borrowed money never returned, manipulative sob stories about rent and jobs. The dominoes fell fast. The family fallout. Mom and Dad were humiliated, but not for the reasons you'd hope. Not because of what Sabrina did, but because I'd made it public. Mom called first, her voice trembling with anger. "Lena, how could you? Family business doesn't belong on the internet." "Then maybe family shouldn't have used the internet to smear me," I said. Dad's voice came next, gruff and tight. "You could have ruined her reputation." "She ruined her own. I just uploaded the evidence." They hung up. 2 days later, my cousin Lauren texted, "You won't believe this. Sabrina sold Mom's bracelet, said it was to fund a new start." By the end of the week, word spread that my parents had let Sabrina and Tyler move into their house temporarily. It lasted less than 10 days. Apparently, Sabrina had tried to redecorate their master bedroom. And when Mom caught her listing old furniture online, the fight that followed shook the neighborhood. Mom finally called again, exhausted. "They're leaving, going to Tyler's parents in Arizona." I didn't say I told you so. I just whispered, "Good." Reclamation. The weeks that followed felt like rehab after a long illness. Caleb and I repainted the guest suite, the one Sabrina swore she'd move into. The walls went from pale pink to a calm gray blue. New locks, new security system. Victor helped me send a final cease and desist notice to Sabrina and Tyler, just to make sure the legal record was airtight. Then, slowly, life began to resume its shape. I went back to work. I started sleeping again. The hum of the pool pump no longer triggered my pulse. And somewhere between one quiet breakfast and another, I realized Caleb hadn't left. Not even once. He'd been here through every ugly moment, never raising his voice, never doubting me. One morning, I caught him looking around the living room, coffee in hand. "You finally look like you belong here again," he said. "I do," I whispered. Closure. A month later, a letter came. No return address. Just a handwritten note on plain stationery. "I'm sorry. For the lies. For everything. I don't know how to fix it. Sabrina." I stared at it for a long time. I didn't feel satisfaction, just relief that the storm had burned itself out. I didn't write back. Some apologies don't need answers. Just distance. Epilogue. I filmed one last video, not for drama, not for vindication, but for anyone who'd ever been guilted into silence. If you're watching this and wondering whether you're cruel for setting boundaries, you're not. You're protecting yourself from people who mistake kindness for weakness. Document everything. Trust your gut. And remember, family doesn't mean unlimited access. The camera blinked off, and for the first time in a year, the house was quiet. That night, Caleb and I sat on the porch, the soft buzz of the pool lights flickering across the water. He took my hand and said, "So, what happens next?" I smiled. "I start living like this place was mine all along." He squeezed my hand. It always was. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, faint, fleeting, and gone. The hedges rustled softly in the night breeze, standing tall like guards once again. For the first time in a long time, I felt something simple, steady, and completely mine. Peace.